As part of this thing we call color management, there's a thing called color constancy that we need to be aware of. And this is the ability of the human eye brain interface to perceive colors in a consistent way, irrespective of the blend of colors actually illuminating the scene. It's our own built-in auto-white balance. Now this is important because if our computer workstation, where we're editing our images, is surrounded by a bright color, red, green, blue, or whatever, then our eyes can adapt to the surrounding color environment and then incorrectly adjust the colors on our monitor, the image that we're working on. So it's important to have to working a fairly neutral colored environment, and this set of slides will hopefully demonstrate that. So in order to get this full effect, we should be looking at this screen for several minutes. But if you just stare at the red screen and just imagine that this is maybe a red wall that is surrounding our computer monitor. Now we introduce an image that we're now working on, and to me that image looks correct. It looks to have a correct color cast. Okay, so we can now change the working environment to a more neutral gray, light gray, and again, to get the full effect, we should be staring at this for several minutes so our eyes can adapt to the new environment. We can now bring back that image, and hopefully you'll be able to see that there is a predominance of red, a color cast of red. And just to illustrate this, we've got a correctly rendered image of the aircraft. So the idea is that if your workstation is surrounded by a predominance of color, you may be incorrectly adjusting the colors of your images, and when they're subsequently projected in a correct environment, they'll appear the wrong color. This can be very effectively demonstrated through this illustration here. If we're to look at the tile here, number 1, I perceive this as a sort of brown, and if we look at tile number 2, I perceive this as an orange. And the idea is that we perceive these colors based on the surrounding environment. If we're to introduce a mask, we can see that they're actually both the same color, and it's worth doing that just once more. Amazing how the eye can be fooled like that. We have a similar sort of situation here, where we have a fairly dark grey and a fairly light grey, and again we can introduce a mask, and they are the same neutral, well, the same density of grey. And the reason we see is because of the surrounding environment of these tiles. And one more demonstration, and we have I perceive this as a sort of dark grey and a very light grey, and again we can introduce our mask, and we can see that it is a neutral sort of grey. Okay, so if we now minimize our image there, and this is a typical example of the Windows desktop. So this is the splash screen from Windows, and it's got a very predominant blue environment. So if our eyes adapt to this blue environment, then you can imagine that when you start to edit some of your images, your eyes may still be fooled into thinking everything should be there's a sort of blue cast, and you'll edit your images incorrectly. So ideally we need to change the desktop environment as well. Now we can do that by right clicking on the desktop and go into personalize, and instead of having a background picture as such, and it's that one there at the moment, we can change this to a solid color, and there's a range of solid colors, and the nearest one with Windows 10 is this one here. So I'm going to choose that one there, which is a neutral grey, and you can see it changes the background. You can see all sorts of other very dominant colors. So this is the background desktop image that I normally work with, and if we just close that, you can see that there's no colors to affect the eye. So That's another handy hint. So hopefully you can see that color constancy can be a problem unless you correctly manage your work environment.